On this Tuesday night, the final seconds before the LaGuardia crash. What investigators reveal about staffing and technology.
We rarely, if ever, investigate a major accident where it was one failure.
And how the two pilots who died are being remembered as heroes. Escalating threat. The signs Israel is set to invade Lebanon again. Newfoundland and Labrador's March Madness.
Spring is cancelled.
Whether there's any relief on the way. Plus, the unusual suspect, how this quadruple amputee cornholing champion is now accused of murder.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Investigators at LaGuardia Airport in New York have revealed some of the failures that may have contributed to the collision between an Air Canada flight and an airport fire truck on Sunday night. 2 pilots were killed and dozens of passengers were injured. The NTSB findings, which are preliminary, point to an overlapping series of failures. One of them involves the fire truck, which had been cleared to cross the runway just before the plane touched down. The NTSB says that truck did not have a transponder, as they do at other airports, and that would have triggered a warning.
Controllers should have all the information and the tools to do their job. All the information they need, whether that's aircraft or vehicles moving on the airport, in taxiways, on runways, they should have all the information. This is 2026.
We now know 2 people were in the tower at the time, and there had just been a shift change. Jackson Proskow is at LaGuardia Airport with what more we've learned. Jackson.
Well, Donna, the investigation is moving into a much more intensive phase, and you can see behind me now those crews, those investigators are out there poring over the wreckage in greater detail and with heavy machinery. And what's quickly coming into focus is an accident that may have involved 2 different vehicles being cleared potentially to be in the same place at the same time.
The crumpled wreckage of the jet and fire truck are still on the runway at LaGuardia as Canadian and American investigators pore over the scene.
We rarely, if ever, investigate a major accident where it was one failure.
Preliminary data from the cockpit voice and data recorders shows Flight 8646 was cleared to land as normal. In their final seconds, it's not clear if the pilots were aware of the fire truck crossing into their path.
Is there any indication from the CVR that the pilots saw the fire truck on the runway? I don't have information at this time.
There's growing focus on the role of air traffic controllers and their communications with airport firefighters. The fire truck was responding to another incident at the time of the collision. 25 seconds before the cockpit voice recorder stopped, firefighters requested permission to cross the runway. At 20 seconds before impact, they were cleared to cross. At 9 seconds before the collision, they were told to stop. They were told to stop a second time, 4 seconds before the recording ended.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195 to stop there, please. Stop.
Do we know if the 2 firefighters in the firefighting vehicle heard the directive to stop? We don't know that yet.
Airport firefighters describe a delicate balance when working on an active airfield every time they deploy.
We are given directions to stop before a runway, and then we have to give clearance to go out onto the runway.
In recent years, LaGuardia has raised concern among pilots. In the Aviation Safety Reporting System, a public database for pilots, there are multiple reports of critical ground conflicts. In August of 2025, one pilot noted the pace of operations is building in LaGuardia. They referenced the deadly 2025 mid-air collision in Washington and warned LaGuardia is starting to feel like Reagan National Airport did before the accident there. Please do something. Canada's transportation minister was asked if he's concerned given the high level of integration with the increasingly strained U.S. airspace.
I have the duty to follow the evidence where it leads. That's what we'll be doing. We conduct extremely rigorous analyses of these tragic incidents, and we learn from everyone.
A full transcript of the cockpit voice recorder could be made available in the next few days, but the full investigation could take a year or more. Donna, if there are any urgent safety recommendations, though, they could be implemented almost immediately.
Okay, Jackson Proskow at LaGuardia Airport. Thank you. What is remarkable given the circumstances is that only 2 people died in the collision, the pilots. They were 2 young men at the start of their careers. Mike Armstrong reports on what we know about them and what grateful passengers are saying about them.
This is a small town in mourning. Coteau-du-Lac, about a half-hour west of Montreal, was the hometown of Antoine Forêt, the 30-year-old pilot killed in the cockpit of flight AC 8646. It's not that everyone in town knew him, but it's not far off.
Mon fils, qui a le même âge, 30 ans.
My son is the same age, this woman says. They went to school together. It's too young to leave. Forêt grew up, according to friends, only ever wanting to be one thing, a pilot. Jean-François Cloutier trained in flight school with Forêt. He says Quebec lost a very good pilot, but Forêt's friends and family lost an exceptional person. Forêt's brother Cédric posted on social media overnight, quote, "Have a good flight, my brother. We've heard that phrase so many times, but this time it'll be the last. You'd come and go in a flash, always with new projects in mind. You've left us in a flash again. Too soon for us to say goodbye. I love you, my brother. You can leave with your head held high." Now, the first officer on the flight was Mackenzie Gunther. He studied at Seneca Polytechnic in Peterborough, Ontario, graduating in 2023. According to the college, he did a bachelor's degree as part of a Jazz Aviation Pathways program. He joined the company after graduation. Seneca's student pilots train at the local airport.
It does hit home. It's very personal. And, you know, the professors and students that are at Seneca now, I can't imagine what they're feeling.
Well, both pilots are being remembered by their passengers as heroes. In the last seconds, many say the plane jolted hard as the men in the cockpit reacted quickly and tried to stop.
Honestly, what the pilots did there, I believe, saved many lives on that flight, and my heart's just broken for them.
They're the heroes. I'm forever indebted to them. They're the reasons I was able to make it home safe to see my boys.
There is a feeling among many that any extra speed could have meant more lives lost. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Coteau-du-Lac, Quebec.
There are no signs of spring yet in Newfoundland and Labrador. Another snowstorm has hit. Roads are bad, schools are closed, and flights canceled or delayed. Heidi Petrachik reports on the latest dump of snow in a region that's already broken winter records.
Dealing with roughly 30 centimeters of snow in late March isn't unusual, but it's also not exactly welcome.
And it's definitely been worse this year than in many past years.
Last year I remember taking out the snowblower 3 times. This year it's about 12, 13 maybe.
Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are feeling the winter fatigue. Schools and government offices closed again Tuesday due to this latest wintry blast.
Sheila's brush said spring is cancelled.
Teacher and parent Melissa Mealy figures this is snow day number 11 this school year.
We're embracing and making the best of it, I guess. But I'm ready for spring. Come on, let's start.
So as of this morning, just coming from the St. John's Airport, they did report 24 centimeters.
That heavy snowfall and high wind gusts grounded flights. Then the snow turned into freezing rain, making road conditions treacherous.
And the hardest part, Mom, is even though you're gonna avoid the icy part, if you're gonna hit the potholes.
This has been a record-breaking winter for Newfoundland and Labrador.
So I definitely understand if people are saying, you know, we've had enough. Right now we're around maybe 140% of normal from December up until now, and that's not including this storm.
February was the snowiest month ever on record for the St. John's area. More than 178 centimeters falling in a series of systems, making snow clearing efforts seem never-ending.
We always budget for extra, private contractors to help us out, and we've used that budget up. So, but we're going to continue to go until the winter's over.
As for when that may be,
spring in Newfoundland is not like spring everywhere else. We can still get snow May 24th weekend into June.
Mild temperatures in the forecast mean another system later this week will likely bring rain. Although folks here know it's still too early to put the snow shovels away. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
Three premiers have joined Alberta's premier in calling for reforms to the way judges are appointed. In a joint letter to the Prime Minister, the premiers of Alberta, Ontario, Saskatchewan and Quebec say having their governments participate in judicial appointments would help ensure they reflect the diversity and the unique needs of each province and territory. The federal justice minister says it's not something the federal government is considering. He says there is already a mechanism that allows for the provinces to consult over judicial appointments and says that process is working. Despite weeks of intense attacks by Israel and the U.S., Iran is still capable of firing multiple missiles. Israel today intercepted a barrage of attacks. Some missiles did get through, hitting residential buildings in Tel Aviv and other parts of the country. Israel says it hit more than 50 sites inside Iran. Iranian missiles also targeted Iraq, killing 6 Kurdish fighters, and a strike in Bahrain killed an Emirati soldier. And the conflicting narratives about whether the U.S. and Iran are actually engaged in peace talks still linger. Pakistan has offered to host diplomatic negotiations, but publicly Iran remains defiant, vowing to fight until complete victory. Israel's government now says it intends to seize parts of southern Lebanon. Israel's military has been bombarding that country, hitting targets, it says, associated with Hezbollah, Iran's proxy in Lebanon. Lebanon's health ministry says over 1,000 people have been killed and as much as 1/5 of the population is now displaced. Redmond Shannon reports on what Israel hopes to achieve.
One of the bridges in Lebanon taken out by Israel, as it looks to cut off the south of the country from Hezbollah and ordinary Lebanese. Israel has been hitting what it says are Hezbollah targets across Lebanon, with more than 100 children among the dead. In the past 3 weeks, Israel has issued evacuation warnings for parts of Beirut and a large area of the south, below and above the Litani River, where it has struck the bridges. More than 1 million people have been displaced. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz says his forces will go in and control the area south of the Litani. He says homes near the border will be demolished, as was done in much of southern Gaza, and residents will not be allowed to return until the safety of people in northern Israel can be guaranteed. He wants to prevent Hezbollah attacks like this one that killed a woman in northern Israel Tuesday. This Hezbollah MP says Israel's intention is permanent occupation, as suggested by Israel's far-right finance minister Monday. Israel has occupied parts of Lebanon many times before. But this month, Lebanon officially outlawed the militant activities of the Iran-backed group and has now told the Iranian ambassador to leave.
The good news here is that unlike previous rounds of fighting, you have a government in Lebanon wants Hezbollah to stop dragging Lebanon into wars it's not interested in with Israel.
What happens if and when Israel does withdraw could determine whether or not this cycle of conflict is repeated. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Oil and gas is still not moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and the Philippines has become the first country to declare a national energy emergency. The government says high oil prices are threatening the country's energy security. The Philippines imports 90% of its oil from the Middle East. The declaration, which will last at least a year, is intended to ensure the availability and orderly distribution of fuel. Free bus rides are being provided for students, and transport workers, such as taxi drivers, are receiving financial help to cope with soaring costs. A lengthy probe into sports in Canada. Coming up, the findings and the urgent calls for an overhaul. The Future of Sport in Canada Commission released its final report today. It concludes maltreatment in sport is widespread, systemic, and ongoing. The report is the result of nearly 2 years of review, which included parliamentary testimony from athletes about their experience of physical, sexual, and psychological abuse within multiple national sport bodies. Secretary of Sport Adam Van Couverden says urgent system-wide action is needed.
This is the most important document potentially ever in Canadian sport. It details a lot of the methodologies and the path forward for sport to become stronger and to feature more prominently as a nation-building activity and project for our country.
The report issued 98 calls to action, including more federal funding for safe sport programs and the creation of a Crown Corporation or centralized sport entity. The Supreme Court of Canada has heard a second day of testimony into Quebec's use of the notwithstanding clause. It has invoked it to shield its controversial secularism law from being challenged in court. Other provinces are now using it too. Bill 21 prohibits provincial public sector employees from wearing religious symbols and clothing on the job. The government of Quebec and other groups supporting Bill 21 made their case today. David Aiken is watching the hearing. David.
Well, Donna, Quebec has used the notwithstanding clause more than any other province, but so has Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. And you know, in any court challenge of the use of that clause, including at the Supreme Court, the provinces are undefeated.
33, il est clair. Il y a un mécanisme clair.
It's clear, says a lawyer for the Quebec government.
Ce n'est pas le rôle de la Cour de trancher une question politique.
It is not up to the court, Isabelle Brunet said, to answer a political question that does not concern the courts. But the Chief Justice, Richard Wagner, wanted to challenge that view.
Admettons qu'il y a un tyran.
A tyrant takes power, Wagner suggested, with no respect for gender equality, division of powers, and so on. Wouldn't Canadians look to judges to protect their rights? No, said Brunet. The notwithstanding clause is exclusively a decision for politicians, not judges. And indeed, the Supreme Court itself, in a unanimous decision it rendered in 1988 on another instance of Quebec using the notwithstanding clause, had already made that determination.
De la valeur des décisions législatives.
The wisdom and value of legislative decisions, Brunet said, are subject only to review by the electorate. And so those in the political sphere, in both Quebec City and in Ottawa, are keeping a close eye on the court proceedings.
It's a debate that has lasted over 15 years. It's a law that was adopted democratically by the National Assembly.
We are the government that will defend the charter, and we're not taking any position on Bill 21 per se. My own personal position has been clear. For years, I've said I'm against it.
And the lawyers for the Government of Canada will lead off Wednesday. And as Minister Joly hinted, they are expected to focus less on Bill 21 and more on the broader question of protecting charter rights in an age of increasing use by several provinces of the notwithstanding clause. Donna.
Okay, David Aiken in Ottawa, thank you. It's been called extraordinary. Ahead, the excitement over the birth of mountain gorilla twins. Russia unleashed its largest aerial attack on Ukraine in a 24-hour period since the beginning of its full-scale invasion. The rare daytime attacks used nearly 1,000 drones, hitting Lviv and other cities in western Ukraine. Another heavy overnight attack left at least 5 people dead. Ukraine's Air Force calls the daytime attack an abrupt change from the usual nighttime raids it has endured in the more than 4 years of this war. The European Union and Australia have signed a free trade agreement that will remove tariffs on almost all trade. Australia's Prime Minister called the deal a win-win. Tariffs will be dropped on European wines, fruits and vegetables, and eventually cheese. The EU will remove tariffs on most Australian agricultural products, and there will be an increase in export quotas of beef and sheep. The deal will also allow the EU greater access to Australia's critical minerals. There is some big mountain gorilla news. A second set of twins has been born in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and conservationists are calling it an extraordinary event. The twins are about 2 weeks old, one male and one female, and they're staying close to mom. It is the second set of twins born to the park's endangered mountain gorilla population in under 3 months. Twins are extremely rare for mountain gorillas. The park says it will deploy additional monitoring and protection measures to support and safeguard the family. Bizarre details in a deadly shooting. Next, how a quadruple amputee and professional cornhole player has ended up facing murder charges. There are plenty of crime stories that don't make the news, but this one is getting lots of attention because the circumstances around it raise so many questions. A man in Maryland has been charged with murder. It's alleged to have happened in the suspect's car, and that suspect is a quadruple amputee who, as Mackenzie Gray reports, also happens to be a top player in the American Cornhole League.
Yeah, a chance at a four-bagger. Here for Dayton Weber.
In for a six.
And it is good. Right down.
He was a cornholing hero, Dayton Weber.
And the crowd loves it here in Milwaukee.
The 27-year-old quadruple amputee making it as a professional on the American Cornhole League, a sport not just reserved for backyard barbecues.
I got a bacterial infection when I was just 10 months old. Left me with a 3% chance of living.
Despite the long odds, Weber didn't let it impact his work or hobbies.
I've been hunting since I was old enough to get my license. I passed my hunter safety course when I think I was like 7 years old.
Skills Maryland police allege Weber used on Sunday night, allegedly shooting and killing the man in the front seat of his car while Weber was driving.
The driver and the front seat passenger were apparently engaged in an argument, but I'm not sure what about.
But how could someone with no hands shoot someone?
His abilities, his capabilities are well documented on the intranet, and all you have to do is look at that.
This video titled "No Hands, No Feet," shooting a 9mm handgun. One of 3 No Hands, No Feet YouTube videos he posted on his own account. Weber showed no issues getting around with guns, but moving a dead body was too much. Police allege he asked the other passengers in his car to help him move the victim. They refused, instead getting out and flagging police down. Weber kept driving, finally being arrested 100 miles from the crime scene. He's now in jail charged with first and second-degree murder and unlikely to fulfill his life's quest.
I know that my mission has always been to inspire people on a daily basis.
Mackenzie Gray, Global News, Ottawa.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Kugluktuk Nunavut. We would love to see Your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.